Shy found the drainpipe by touch and swung out into darkness, shimmying rapidly down toward the ground. The metal surface was still slick from that morning's rain, making his footing treacherous, but he managed to reach ground level without breaking his neck or any other body parts, which he considered a good deal all around. Glancing up briefly, he saw the open window he'd just descended from, with Aaron's narrow silhouette bracketed by a square of yellow light. He didn't dare raise his voice enough to give any further assurances, so he just lifted his hand briefly in thanks and turned away. There was no such thing as pitch blackness at night in Nil Ra, since the light from the streets managed to bleed through into even the most secluded of alleyways. Still, it was hard going, since he had to take care to make his flight silent as well as swift. Even though the main danger seemed to be past, his heart was still pounding, and he couldn't stop himself from sneaking glances over his shoulder as he went. The alleys in this part of the city were a maze, branching into and off of one another without any apparent rhyme or reason. Without having any particular destination in mind, Shy chose his paths at random, angling away from the areas where he knew the worst of the tweaks and gangbangers liked to hang out. Sweepers weren't the only dangers there were to avoid in this part of the city, and while it had been years since he'd had to make a living out here, his reflexes remembered the experience perfectly well. So attuned was he to searching the shadows for hidden assailants, he was caught completely off guard when the blonde new city girl from the club appeared out of the darkness ahead of him, looking ethereal in the light that filtered down from the buildings around them. Shy got the impression that she'd known full well where he'd be at exactly this moment, and had been waiting for him, but that was crazy, wasn't it? He drew up short, feeling cornered, and started at the sound of a footfall in the alley behind him. "Who are you?" he demanded, sweating despite the night's chill. Even if someone from the club had decided to betray him to the agency and managed to guess where he'd made his escape from, unlikely as each of those possibilities were, there was no way they could have predicted the route he'd taken through the alleys. Even he wasn't 100% certain where he was right now. The man Shy remembered from the club appeared behind the girl and settled his hands over her shoulder, staring at Shy mistrustfully. He looked even more awkward here than he had on the dance floor, reinforcing Shy's impression that he wasn't from this part of the city. "Just relax, son," the man said. His voice sounded thin in the stillness that surrounded them. "We're not going to hurt you." "Then why are you following me?" Shy asked, not believing it for a minute. He glanced behind him and cursed inwardly when he saw the sweeper from the bar creeping up in the alley behind him. "What do you want?" "Easy." It was the sweeper who was speaking now, holding out one hand as if to placate him. Her other hand was resting on the palm-sized black stunner belted to her waist. "There's no way out of here, so just calm down." Coming to the abrupt conclusion that the girl and her strange guardian presented a lesser threat than the sweeper did, Shy turned and sprinted toward them, fully intending to fight his way past if they tried to stop him. He only managed to take 2 steps before the hard energy blast from the stunner hit between his shoulder blades, throwing him off balance and pitching him to the ground. He struck hard, but he was already too numb to feel it, nerve endings deadening under the force of the blast. The alleyway seemed to spin around him, and he blinked slowly, staring up into the new city girl's concerned face as she bent over him. The light from the street surrounded her like a halo, glowing golden off her long fall of hair. "It's all right," she told him, reaching out to touch the side of his face in a disturbingly intimate gesture. She smiled slightly. "We're bringing you home." It was the last sound Shy heard before the darkness roaring at the edges of his vision surged forward to claim him, and he lost consciousness.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.